The rifle was already in Isaac Teague's hands when he heard the child crying in his barn. He stopped dead in the snow with the lantern swinging and every hair on his arm standing up, because he had not heard a child's voice on this place in 6 years. Not since he had buried his son in the frozen ground behind the house and then buried the boy's mother 8 days after him. It was Thanksgiving morning. The sky was the color of dirty tin, and out of his own barn came a sound he had stopped believing the world still made. He shouldered the door open. The lantern light went out over the stalls. The mare threw her head up. The cow shifted and lowed low in her throat, and Isaac swept the light along the row and saw nothing and then swung it into the far corner, where he kept the old horse blankets stacked on a crate. There, a woman lay in the hay in the corner with 2 small children pressed against her, all 3 of them wrapped in one thin blanket that had never been meant for a Montana November. Her lips were gray. Her eyes came open and found the rifle and then found his face. "Please," she whispered, "don't send us back to him. If you have ever had to knock on a stranger's door with nothing left, stay with me. This one is for you. Let me take you back to that barn and to the marks cut into a doorframe that a man had not been able to look at in 6 years." The cold had teeth that morning. Isaac had felt it come through his coat crossing the yard, the way November cold does when the sky is that low. It was the 28th. Thanksgiving, if a man kept track of such things, which Isaac had not for 6 years, because a holiday is a thing you keep for somebody and he had nobody to keep it for. He had made the same walk that morning that he had made 1,000 mornings. Lantern in one hand, rifle in the other, because there had been a cat working the high timber all fall. Same yard, same barn, same silence waiting inside it. And then, the crying. Isaac lowered the rifle. He saw them, standing there in the gray light. Not the woman and her children. Ruth and Micah. The family he had lost. He saw them in this half-frozen girl and her 2 silent kids. And something in his chest pulled so tight he could not breathe around it. "How long have you been out here?" "I don't know." She was shaking so hard the words came apart. "Since the dark. Since it got dark." He set down the lantern and went to one knee slowly, keeping his hands where she could see them. She flinched anyway and pulled the children closer, and the way she did it told him a great deal. The girl was maybe 5. Dark blonde, sharp little face, eyes wide open and taking in everything. The boy was smaller, 3 at most, asleep or close to it, his cheek against his mother's collarbone. "Those kids need warmth," Isaac said. "So do you. We'll be gone by morning. I swear it. It is morning." She looked at the gray light in the doorway like she had not understood that. "You're not going anywhere," Isaac said. "Not today. Not like that. Please don't. I'm not going to hurt you. Or them." He put the rifle down flat in the hay, which cost him something, and he watched her notice that it had. "But another hour out here, and you'll all 3 be dead." "Is that what you walked all this way for?" The woman searched his face. She was looking for the trick, the price, the thing that was going to be asked of her. He knew that look. He had seen it on beaten horses and once, a long time ago, on a soldier. She did not find it. He watched her not find it, and he watched her decide. "Can you stand?" Yes. She could not. Her legs went out from under her, and he caught her with one arm and took the smaller child with the other, and the boy weighed almost nothing at all. "I've got you." "Easy, Effie," the woman said. "Effie, hold on to my skirt. Don't let go." "I won't," said the girl. They crossed the yard through snow that came to Isaac's knees, the woman leaning on him with all her weight and no pride about it. The little girl gripping her mother's skirt with a fist gone red and white. The house came up ahead of them. One lamp burning in the kitchen window because he always left one burning, though he had stopped asking himself why. "It isn't much," he said. "It's warm," the woman said. It's warm. That's all She did not finish. He got them inside and shut the door on the cold. He worked fast after that, because working fast was easier than thinking. Stove open, wood in, damper wide. Blankets out of the chest, the good ones, the ones Ruth had made, which he had not taken out of that chest since the winter she died. Milk on to warm. The children in the chair closest to the fire with the wool piled over them. The girl watched every single thing he did. Are you a bear? She said. Isaac stopped. What? You look like a bear. Papa said bears live up in the mountains. Effie, her mother said faintly. I'm not a bear, Isaac said. Bears sleep in winter. I've got chores. The girl considered this and appeared to accept it. He tested the milk on his wrist and poured it into 2 cups and put them in small hands. And then he found the bread and the butter and the preserves he had put up in August, because he still put up more than one man could eat, and he set all of it on the table. Eat, he said. The woman looked at the food and then at him. I can't pay for, I didn't ask you to. She fed the children first. Both of them. One at a time. Cup and bread, and she did not take a single bite herself until they were both eating steadily on their own. Then she ate like somebody who had forgotten what full felt like. Isaac poured coffee and pushed a cup toward her and sat down across the table. What's your name? She hesitated. He recognized the hesitation. It was the pause of a person who has learned that a name is a thing that gets you found. Marin, she said. Marin Pike. Isaac Teague. This is my place. Nearest neighbors 5 miles east, towns 9 miles south. He turned the cup once. Nobody comes up here in November. Nobody's coming today. Something in her shoulders came down about an inch. How'd you find the barn? I saw your light. Where were you going? Marin looked at the table. Away, that's not a place. No, she said. It isn't. In the lamplight he could see the bruise along her cheekbone, gone yellow-green at the edges. 10 days old. Maybe 2 weeks. He did not ask. Questions could wait until she had something in her stomach. There's a room upstairs, he said. Stove in it. I'll get it going. I can't take you can. And you will. He stood up. Stay as long as you need. Go when you're ready. That's the whole of it. Marin's eyes filled. She blinked hard and refused to let it happen. Why, she said. You don't know me. You don't know what I've done or what I'm running from. Isaac looked at the 2 children by the fire. The boy had fallen asleep sitting up with the cup still in both hands. I had a wife, he said. Ruth and a boy. Micah. Lost them both 6 years back. Fever came through in the spring and took the boy on a Tuesday and took her the Wednesday after next. He picked up the lantern. House has been quiet since. Real quiet. Doesn't matter how big you build the fire. Marin said nothing at all. Come on, Isaac said. I'll show you the room. The room had been Ruth's. She had used it for sewing and for the winter seedlings and for whatever else she felt like using it for, and Isaac had not opened the door since the spring she died. It smelled like cold dust and old cedar. Her quilt was still folded at the foot of the bed. Her needle case was still on the little table by the window. He lit the stove and checked the flue and pulled the covers back, and he did all of it without looking directly at anything, which was a skill he had developed. This was hers, Marin said from the doorway. Yes, I can't sleep in. You can, and you're going to. He straightened up. She'd have had you up here inside of 2 minutes, and she'd have been irritated with me for taking as long as I did. Marin carried the sleeping boy to the bed and laid him down and then went back for the girl, and Isaac stood in the hall, not knowing what to do with his hands. There's a bolt on this door, she said. There is. Does it work? It works. I oiled it Tuesday. Marin looked at him. You oiled it Tuesday. I oil everything on Tuesdays, Isaac said. It's not a thing about you. It's a thing about Tuesdays. She almost smiled. It did not get all the way there, but it started. "Use it," he said. "I'd want you to. It'll mean you sleep, and you look like a woman who hasn't slept in a month. 22 days. That's near enough to a month. Mr. Teague. Isaac. Isaac." She swallowed. "Thank you. I don't know how to." "You don't need to." He stopped in the doorway. "You're safe here," he said. "That's all that wants saying." He went down and sat by the fire and listened to the house, floorboards moving upstairs, water in the basin, a small voice asking a question and a lower one answering it. Then singing, a mother's voice, low, some old hymn he half knew. Isaac Teague sat in his own kitchen, with his hands on his knees, and his chest felt strange and tight. And it took him most of an hour to work out that what he was feeling was not grief. It was the house being lived in. He was up before light the next morning, the same as every morning. He fed the stock and broke the ice on the trough and milked. And when he came back in with the pail, the girl was sitting at the kitchen table with her chin on her hands, wide awake, watching the door. "You're up early," Isaac said. "I always am. Mama sleeps hard when she can. She hardly ever can." Effie considered him. "Are those your cows?" "One cow, 2 horses. There's chickens, but they're not much use in the cold." "What are their names?" "They're chickens." "Everything has a name," Effie said, in the tone of somebody correcting an obvious factual error. Isaac set the pail down. "Then you name them," he said. "I'm too busy." She took that on as a serious commission and went quiet, thinking, and then she got up out of the chair and went and stood by the doorway between the kitchen and the front room and put her hand flat on the frame. "What are these?" Isaac's whole body went still. There were 7 marks cut into that doorframe. Small knife cuts, clean, each with a date scratched sideways beside it in a rough hand. The lowest one was down near her knee. The highest was about level with her shoulder. Nothing above it. 6 years of nothing above it. That's how tall he was, Isaac said. His voice came out wrong, and he cleared it. "My boy, every year on his birthday. He'd stand there and I'd put the knife on the top of his head and cut the mark." Effie ran her finger along the highest one. "Was he bigger than me?" "About your size at that one." "That's when he was 5. I'm 5. I know." She looked at the empty wood above the last mark, and Isaac watched a 5-year-old work out what an empty space means, and he had to turn and put his hands on the counter. "That's where the next ones would go," Effie said. "Yes, but they're not there." No, she did not ask why. She had, he realized, already worked out why, and she was not going to make him say it, and there was something about being spared by a child that nearly took his legs out from under him. "You could put one for me," Effie said. Isaac stood at the counter with his back to her. "Maybe," he said. "Not today." "Okay," said Effie, entirely satisfied, and went back to the fire. The storm came in that afternoon and held for 3 days. 3 days of wind that leaned on the north wall. 3 days of the world shrunk down to 4 rooms and a fire and 5 people learning each other's edges. Marin learned that Isaac took his coffee black and strong enough to stand a spoon in. That he checked the door and both windows every night before he went up. Not out of fear, but out of habit, worn into the bone. That he never once came into a room without stopping half a beat at the threshold, which she eventually understood was a kind of knocking. Isaac learned that Marin hummed when she thought no one could hear. That she came awake at any sound at all. That her hands shook sometimes for no reason he could see, and that she hated it when they did, and that the fastest way to make her hate it more was to notice. He learned to move slower, to announce himself, to not come up behind her. The children thawed faster than she did. Children do. By the second day, Gil had decided that Isaac was furniture that could be climbed, and pursued that theory with determination. By the third, Effie had named the chickens, Bess, pudding, and one she referred to only as the difficult one, and had begun a running commentary on the state of the household that did not stop for meals. "Your woodbox is wrong," she informed him on the second afternoon. "Is it? The big pieces are on top. You have to move them all to get a little one for starting." Isaac looked at the woodbox. He had loaded it the same way for 11 years. "Huh," he said. Effie reorganized it. It took her half an hour, and she had to do it in armloads of 2, and Isaac sat at the table and let her, and when she was done, she stood back and looked at it with her hands on her hips exactly like a foreman. "There," she said. "Now it's right." It was right. He used that woodbox for the next 30 years and never once loaded it the other way again. She had questions too. She had a great many of them. "How old are you?" 38. "That's very old." "It is. Are you sad?" Isaac stopped what he was doing. "Some," he said. "Mama's sad too. But she does it quiet." Effie swung her feet. "Do you do it quiet?" "I do it quiet." "That's what grown people do," Effie said, as if delivering a finding. "I don't like it." "No," Isaac said. "Me neither." She thought about that. "When I'm sad, I say so out loud," she said. "You could try it. I'll bear it in mind. Another morning, why is there only 1 cup out? There's more in the press." "But only 1 was out. Before us." She looked at him. "That's the saddest thing I ever saw." "Effie," said her mother from the stairs. "I'm only saying what's true." "You are," Isaac said. "Get 4 down. We'll want them." Gil did not talk much. Marin said he had come late to it, and then gone quiet again somewhere on the road, which was a sentence she said flatly and did not expand on. He communicated instead by placing objects in people's hands. A spoon. A wood chip. Once, memorably, a live chicken, which took some sorting out. On the 3rd morning, Isaac sat down in the chair by the fire to work a bad splice out of a length of harness, and Gil climbed into his lap without asking anybody's permission, arranged himself, and went to sleep against his chest. Isaac sat there for 1 hour and 40 minutes with a piece of harness in his hands, and did not move. Marin came in and saw them and stopped in the doorway. "I can take him." "No," Isaac said. She stood there a moment. "He hasn't done that with anyone but me," she said. "Not ever." "Then I'll sit here." She went out again, quietly, and Isaac heard her go up the stairs and heard the door of Ruth's room close, and he understood without being told that she had gone up there to cry where the children could not see it. He kept sitting. The fire ticked. The boy breathed against his shirt. 6 years, he thought. 6 years, and I had forgotten what the weight of one of them feels like. He was very careful not to think anything past that. On the second night the fire burned low, and Isaac came down to build it up and found Marin already there, feeding sticks in carefully, quietly. Couldn't sleep. Neither could I. They sat, not talking. 2 people keeping watch on a cold. "Tell me about her," Marin said finally. "Ruth." He did not talk about Ruth. Not to anyone. 6 years, and he had never once said more than her name out loud to another living person. But there was something about the firelight and the wind and this woman's quiet, and he found himself talking. "She was hard as a boot," he said. "Came out here with me when there was nothing up here but timber and weather. Put up half this house with her own hands. Never once said she wanted to go back. You loved her. More than I had any business loving anything." Marin pulled her knees up and wrapped her arms around them. "That's how it's supposed to be," she said. "That's what I thought it was going to be. Before, she looked into the fire. He was charming. Everyone said so. My father was so pleased. A man with money wanting his daughter. Her mouth did something that was not a smile. Lucky, they said. I was lucky. When did it start? The wedding night. I cried, and he hit me for it. He said tears were weakness, and he'd get it out of me. Her voice went flat and level. The way a voice goes when a thing has been gone over so many times, it has worn smooth. He got a lot of it out of me. Isaac's hands closed on his knees. What's his name? Royce Adler. Where? Kansas. He owns half a county. His brother's the sheriff of it. She looked at him. There's no law for women like me, Isaac. Not there. I went to my own mother when I was carrying Gil, and she told me I'd made my bed. How far did you walk? 300 miles. Give or take. I went around the towns. Couldn't be seen. Isaac sat forward. 300 miles. In November. With a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old. Gil rode on my back most of it. Effie walked. Marin's chin came up, waiting for him to say the thing people said. I know how it sounds. It sounds, Isaac said, like the bravest damn thing I have ever heard in my life. Marin's face came apart. She put both hands over it and cried without any sound at all, the way a woman cries when she has learned to do it silently. And Isaac Teague sat 6 feet away with his fists on his knees and did not touch her, because she had not asked him to. I'm so tired, she said when she could. I am so tired of being afraid. I know, you don't. No, he agreed. I don't, but I know what tired looks like. I've been looking at it in a shaving glass for 6 years. She laughed. It surprised both of them. Will he come looking? Isaac asked. Yes, you're sure. He doesn't lose things, Marin said. He collects them and he keeps them, and if one gets away, it isn't about wanting it back. It's about the getting away. Isaac looked at the fire a long moment. Then, let him come, he said. Isaac rode to Two Pines on the 4th day for flour and coffee and salt pork. The town was one street, a store, a smithy, a saloon that did duty as a meeting hall, and a white church with a steeple that had been the tallest thing in the valley for 20 years. 400 people, and Isaac had known most of them his whole life, and had said maybe 200 words to any of them since Ruth died. He gathered what he needed. Then he stopped at the bolts of cloth at the back, and stood there longer than a man stands in front of cloth. Help you find something? Mrs. Prentice had come up on his elbow without a sound, which was a thing she did. Need some wool, Isaac said. And some flannel. Wool, that's what I said. For yourself. For a guest. Mrs. Prentice's eyebrows went up so far they nearly left her face. A guest. At your place. My cousin's widow. Come through on her way west and got caught by the storm. I never knew you had a cousin. Second cousin. Back east. The lie came out easier than he had expected, and he did not much like how easy. Children? 2. How very sad. Mrs. Prentice's sympathy had the consistency of thin gravy. Staying long as she needs. She wrapped the cloth without another word, and Isaac paid, and he could feel her composing the story before he was out the door. Cal Brody was waiting by the horses. Cousin's widow, Cal said, falling in beside him. Don't start. I'm not starting anything. Cal dropped his voice. They had known each other 31 years. They had gone up the Bozeman Road together at 19 and come back down it at 22, considerably older. He had stood beside Isaac at his wedding, and he had dug with him behind the house on both of those 2 bad days in the spring of the fever year. Who is she, Isaac? Isaac untied the reins. Somebody that needed help. Her and 2 kids. That's all of it you need. Cal was quiet a moment. Then he nodded. All right, he said. But you know this town. They'll talk. Let them. It'll get hard. It's already hard, Isaac said, and swung up. Cal put a hand on the bridle. One more thing, and then I'll shut up. He squinted up at him. You look better than you've looked in 6 years. I want you to know I noticed, and I want you to know that everybody else is going to notice too, and half of them are going to decide that's evidence of something. Evidence of what? Isaac. Cal let go of the bridle. You've been a ghost since Ruth. Folks got comfortable with the ghost. A ghost doesn't need anything from anybody, and it doesn't make anybody feel bad about themselves. He stepped back. You start looking like a man with something to live for again. Some people are going to have to think about what they were doing all those years they weren't coming up your road. And people don't care for that. Isaac sat his horse a moment. That's the meanest true thing anybody's said to me in a while, he said. That's what I'm for. Cal. What? Isaac looked down the street. Her husband's going to come. Figured he might. When he does, I'm not going to hand her over. Figured that too. I'm telling you because you'll have to decide something, and I'd rather you decide it now than in my yard. Cal put his hat back on. Isaac, I've known you since we were 9, he said. I stood in the road with you at 2 Rivers when there was every reason to be somewhere else. You think I'm going to blink at a man from Kansas? I think a man ought to be asked. Well, I've been asked. Cal turned to go. Answer's the same as it was in '64. He rode out without looking back. And he could feel the eyes on him the whole length of that street. The talk started before he was out of the valley. He came over the last rise near dark and saw smoke standing straight up out of his chimney into the cold, still air. And something in his chest loosened so suddenly it almost hurt. The door opened before he had the horse tied. You're back, Marin said. She had a dish towel in her hands and she was twisting it. Said I would be. I know. She stopped. I was worried. He carried the goods in and set them out on the table, and then he put the cloth on top of the pile. Marin went very still. What's that? Wool and flannel. Winter's just getting started. That girl's dress is worn through at both elbows. Isaac, it's not charity. You'll be sewing it yourself, and you'll be doing it with Ruth's machine, which has been sitting idle 6 years and wants using. He took his coat off. You know how to sew? Yes, her voice was thin. Yes, I know how to sew. Then it settled. She put her hand flat on the blue wool and did not say anything for a long moment, and when she did, her voice was not steady at all. Nobody has bought me anything, she said, since I was a girl. Well, Isaac said. Now somebody has. The next 2 weeks were the best 2 weeks he could remember since the year before the fever. He worked the place. She ran the house. The children ran everything else. Effie had opinions about the correct arrangement of the woodbox and shared them freely. Gil discovered Isaac's boots and became devoted to them for reasons no one ever established. Marin cooked like a person making up for lost meals. She found the mending. She got the stove to behave, which Isaac had never entirely managed. She reorganized his pantry and then braced for him to be angry about it, and he came in, looked at it, said that's better, and went out again, and he saw her face when he said it and had to go split wood for 20 minutes. And one night at supper Gil put both hands up at him from the floor and said quite clearly, Pa, the room stopped. Marin went white. Gil, no, sweetheart, that's Mr. Teague. It's all right, Isaac said. He doesn't know what he's, Marin. He picked the boy up and settled him on his hip, where Gil immediately took hold of his beard with total confidence. It's all right. She looked at the two of them and put her hand over her mouth. Effie, from the table, said, I knew he was going to do that. He does it to everyone he likes. Does he? Said Isaac. He did it to a mule once, Effie said. It was embarrassing for everybody. Marin found him at the doorframe 2 nights later. She had come down for water, and there was no lamp lit, only the red of the banked stove, and Isaac was standing in the dark with his back to her, and his open knife in one hand, and his other hand flat on the wood. He did not turn. He had heard her on the 3rd step, and had decided not to move. You could put one for her, Marin said. She asked me. First morning. I know. She told me. He stood there. Then why don't you? Isaac was quiet so long she thought that was the end of it. "Because the top one's his," he said. "And if I cut one above it, then his isn't the top one anymore." He turned the knife over once. "And I know what that sounds like. I know exactly what that sounds like. He's been dead 6 years, and I'm standing in the dark arguing about the order of some notches in a piece of pine. It doesn't sound like that. It sounds like a man who can't put anything down." "Isaac," Marin set the cup on the table. "My mother had a chair my father sat in. He died when I was 9. Nobody sat in it again. Not one person, not once, for 11 years. She looked at him. "When I was 17, I sat in it, because I was tired and it was there, and she slapped me so hard I saw the ceiling." He turned around at last. "So I don't think it's about the notches," Marin said. "I think there's a thing that happens where the keeping starts to cost more than the losing did, and nobody can tell you when you've crossed it. You've got to find it yourself." "And have you?" "I walked 300 miles, she said. "So yes. But it took me 2 broken ribs and a doctor writing them down twice, and I would not recommend that as a method." Isaac laughed. It came out of him rough and surprised, and he had not made that sound in 6 years, and it was so unexpected that he had to put a hand on the doorframe. "Go on to bed," Marin said gently. He folded the knife and put it in his pocket. "Not tonight," he said. "That's all right." "Not tonight," he said again, mostly to himself, and went up. Cal Brody came up the lane on a grey afternoon in December with news, and Isaac knew from the way he sat his horse that it was not good. "Town's talking," Cal said in the kitchen, hat in his hands. "Not the usual. Reverend Tillery's got hold of it." Isaac set his cup down. "Tillery, he preached on it Sunday. Didn't say your name. Didn't need to." Cal glanced at Marin, who had gone still by the stove. Sin and propriety and the moral decay of unmarried folk under one roof. "Mrs. Prentice has been feeding him and he's been eating. Let him preach." "Isaac, he's got the town council in his pocket and half the congregation scared of him." "Then they can be scared." "There's a reason," Cal said, "and you don't know it, so hear me out." He turned his hat once. "Tillery had a daughter, Lydia, before your time paying attention, maybe 15 years back. She married a man over in Bozeman, and she left him after 2 years." Marin turned around. "She ran," Cal said. "Middle of winter. Nobody would take her in, on account of what her own father was saying about her from that pulpit." He looked at the floor. "They found her on the Bozeman Road in the spring thaw. She'd been out there since December. The kitchen was very quiet." "He blames himself," Isaac said. "He blames her," Cal said. "That's the trouble. It's easier. So now he preaches that a woman stays with her husband whatever comes, because if that's true, then Lydia died of her own sin and not of her father's mouth." Marin sat down slowly in the chair by the stove. "I should go," she said. "No," Isaac said. "Isaac, you heard him. That man will—" I said no. The first Sunday of Advent came bright and bitter cold, and Isaac Teague went to church for the first time in 6 years. "You don't have to do this," Marin said. "Yes, I do. They already think what they think. Going won't change it. It isn't about changing minds." He looked at her. "It's about not hiding. I'm done hiding. I've done 6 years of it." She had finished the blue dress 2 days before. It fit her. She looked well in it, and she looked terrified. "What if they won't have us?" "It's a church," Isaac said. "They can't keep anybody out. That's the one rule they've got." They rode in on the wagon with the children bundled between them. The white steeple came up out of the trees. There were wagons all over the churchyard and people standing around in their Sunday clothes talking and laughing. The laughing stopped when they came in sight. Isaac set the brake and got down and helped Marin down and lifted Gil onto his hip and took Effie by the hand. "Ready?" Marin's chin came up. "Ready." The crowd opened in front of them. Not welcome. Avoidance, like they were carrying something catching. "Missus," Prentice was standing at the door. "Mr. Teague, I see you've brought your guest." "I've brought my family," Isaac said, and walked past her. The word went through that churchyard like a stone through a window. Inside, 200 faces turned. Isaac walked down the middle aisle to the third pew on the right, which had been his family's pew for 3 generations, and he stepped in and sat down and set Gil on his knee. Marin sat beside him, shoulder to shoulder. Effie sat on her other side with her hands folded and her back very straight, having decided independently that this was a situation requiring dignity. The whispers started at once, running through the pews like wind in dead grass. Reverend Bram Tillery came out of the vestry. Tall, thin, grey, with eyes like the underside of ice. He climbed to the pulpit and looked out over the room, and his gaze found Isaac and found Marin, and stopped there. "Brothers and sisters," he said, "I had prepared a sermon on the season of waiting, but the Lord has put another thing on my heart this morning." Cal Brodie, 4 rows back, put his face in his hand. "We are a plain people," Tillery said. "We built this valley on work and on the Word. And the Word is not a soft thing. It does not bend to suit our sympathies. He let that sit. A man shall leave his father and mother and cleave unto his wife. One man, one woman, joined before God." His voice began to climb. "Not whatever arrangement 2 people find convenient, not cohabitation, not sin dressed up in a charitable coat and paraded into this house on a Sunday morning. That's enough." Isaac's voice went down that church like a dropped axe. Tillery stopped. "Mr. Teague, sit down." "No." Isaac handed Gil to Marin and stood up and stepped into the aisle. "You've had your say. I'll have mine, and then I'll sit." Nobody in that room moved. "This woman came to my barn on Thanksgiving morning," Isaac said. "She'd walked 300 miles from Kansas with 2 babies because her husband broke her ribs and told her he'd finish it if she stayed. She was 3 hours from freezing. So were both those kids." The sound that went through the congregation was not a whisper anymore. I took her in. I fed her. I gave her a room and a stove and a door that locks from the inside. Isaac turned so he was speaking to the pews and not to the pulpit. "That's not sin. That's the whole of what this book is about, unless I've been misreading it for 40 years. You will not lecture me on Scripture. I'm not lecturing anybody. I'm telling you what happened in my barn." Isaac's voice dropped. "You want to talk about that morning, Reverend? Let's talk about it. Because there's a piece of it that's been eating me since." He looked around the room now at the faces, and some of them would not meet him. 9 miles, he said. "That woman walked past 9 miles of this valley to get to my barn. She came up the Kimball Road. She went past the Prentice place. She went past the church. She went past 4 houses with lamps burning in them and a woman carrying a 3-year-old on her back. And not one door opened." The silence had changed its character. "I'm not standing up here saying I'm better than anybody," Isaac said. "I didn't open a door either. I found her because she got into my barn on her own and one of those babies started crying loud enough to be heard from the yard. That's the only reason. Pure dumb luck and a hungry child." He let out a breath. "So no, I'm not taking a lecture on Christian conduct this morning. Not from this pulpit, and not from these pews. There isn't a person in this building who came out of that night looking good, including me. Sit down, Mr. Teague. I'll say one more thing and then I will, Reverend, and I'm going to say it kindly, because I've buried people too." Tillery's hands had gone white on the pulpit rail. "Lydia didn't die of sin," Isaac said. "She died of 9 miles of open road and nobody willing to open a door." The silence in that building was total. Tillery's face did not change, but something behind it did, the way ice does before it goes. Then Marin stood up. "Reverend," she said. Her voice shook and she did not let that stop her. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for your girl. I've been where she was, and I got a door, and she didn't, and there isn't one thing that separates us except that." She looked out at the congregation. "You can say what you like about me. I've been called worse by better." Her hand went to Effie's head. "But my children didn't choose any of this. They just want to be warm. That's all. And this man gave them that when he owed us nothing at all." She sat down. Nothing happened for 3 full seconds. Then, from near the back, one person started clapping. Hetty Marsh was 68 years old and had buried 2 husbands and was afraid of nothing on this earth. She stood up in her pew and clapped. Slow and hard. Cal Brody stood up. Then a man Isaac did not know well from the far side of the valley. Then 4 more. Then a dozen. Not everyone. Not close to everyone. Enough. Bram Tillery stood in his pulpit and looked out at his own congregation coming apart in front of him, and he did not finish his sermon. They rode home without talking for the first 2 miles. "Well," Marin said at last. "Well, you didn't tell me you were going to say the part about the 9 miles. I didn't know I was." "Isaac," she turned on the seat. "Half those people have to live with that now. Good, some of them were kind to me at the store. Then they can be kind, and they can live with it. Both things fit in a person." He shook the reins. "I'm not sorry. I'd say it again on Wednesday." Marin looked ahead at the road. "So would I," she said. From the wagon bed, Effie said, "Is that man going to be there next week?" "The Reverend?" "Probably. Do we have to go back?" Isaac thought about it. "Yes," he said. "Why? Because if we don't go back, then he wins by us not being there. And I've had about enough of men winning that way." "All right," said Effie, and lay back down, apparently satisfied. Gil said nothing at all, and put a small rock in Isaac's coat pocket, which Isaac found 4 days later and did not throw away, and in fact still had 30 years afterward in a tin on a shelf with several others. The man came up the lane 11 days later. City clothes. Clean hands. A face like a shut-book. He did not get down off his horse. "Mr. Teague, that's right. My name is Quill. I'm an investigator." He produced a card and Isaac did not take it. "I'm looking for a woman. Young, 2 small children. Her husband has engaged me." "That so. Mr. Adler is very concerned. His wife has been unwell. He only wants her home safe. Haven't seen anybody like that." "You're certain?" Quill's eyes went past him to the house. "I've had reports. You've had gossip. There's a difference, and you'll find plenty of the one and none of the other in this valley." Isaac shifted the rifle in the crook of his arm, not pointing it, just letting it be a thing that existed. "You're on my ground, and I'm asking you to get off it." Quill smiled without any part of his face joining in. "Of course." He gathered his reins. "You should know, Mr. Teague, that Mr. Adler is a considerable man. He does not care to be disappointed. And he's coming himself. Within the week." He rode off. Isaac stood in the yard until he was gone over the ridge. Then he went inside. Marin was standing in the middle of the kitchen with both hands pressed flat on the table. "He found me. He suspects." That's the same thing. Royce Adler came 3 days later, and he came without the law. Isaac was splitting wood when he saw them on the road, 3 riders, coming slow, taking their time down the middle of the lane the way men ride when they believe the ground belongs to them. "Marin." He did not raise his voice. She was on the porch, shaking a rug. "Take the children upstairs. Lock the door. Whatever you hear, you stay up there." She saw the riders. Her face did something Isaac never wanted to see again. "Go," he said. She went. He set down the axe and picked up the rifle from where he had leaned it against the block, which he had been doing every day since Quill, and he walked up and stood on his own porch and waited. They stopped at the edge of the yard. The man in front got down. He was handsome. That was the first thing anybody noticed about Royce Adler, and it was the thing he had built a life on. Smooth-shaven, well-made, in a coat that cost more than most men in that valley earned in a year. The other two stayed mounted and did not do anything, which was itself a kind of doing something. "Mr. Teague," his voice was pleasant. "Carrying, reasonable. I believe you have my wife. There's nobody here that's yours. Please, let's not." Adler brushed something off his sleeve. "Mr. Quill was thorough. I know she's been under this roof 5 weeks. I know exactly what that looks like to a court, and I'd imagine you do too." He smiled. "Though I'd not expect much better of her. She was never particular." Isaac did not move. "Get off my land. I'll go when I have what's mine. She's not a thing you own. The law says otherwise, and the law is the only thing that matters." Adler took a step forward. "Now I'm a reasonable man. I don't want unpleasantness. Send her out, and I'll be gone inside of 10 minutes, and you can go back to whatever this is." "No." Something went across Adler's face then. Just for a second, but Isaac saw it. The mask slipping half an inch. Underneath it there was nothing but a hot, small, personal rage. "You'd shoot me," Adler said. "Over her. I'd shoot you over a stray dog you were kicking. Her's got nothing to do with it. You have no idea who I am. I know exactly what you are." Isaac came one step down off the porch. "I've known you my whole life. Different name, different coat. Every place has one. A man who's never once been told no by a room, and who therefore believes he's strong." He let the rifle hang easy in his hands. "You're not strong, Mr. Adler. You're just used to it. Those are not the same thing, and out here the difference gets tested." The two hired men shifted in their saddles. One of them looked at the timberline, and then at the ridge, and then at the ground, in the manner of a man who has just realized he is on a mountain 9 miles from anywhere, with a lot of trees around him and no idea who else is in them. Adler stood in the snow. "This is not finished," he said. "Didn't figure it was. I'll come back with a badge and a judge and a warrant, and there will not be one thing you can do." "Then bring them," Isaac said. "Bring the whole county. But you'll not be walking up onto this porch today." Adler mounted. He wheeled the horse and then stopped and looked up at the house, at the upstairs window where a curtain had moved. "Marin," he called out, pleasantly, "you know I'll wait. You know I've always been able to wait." Then they rode out. Isaac stood there until the sound of them was gone. His hands did not start shaking until several minutes after that. He went inside and up the stairs and knocked on the door. "It's me." The lock went back. Marin was standing there, white to the lips, with a fire iron in her hand, and the children were behind her under the bed, which she had plainly instructed them to do and which they had plainly done before. "He's gone." For now. For now, Isaac agreed. Marin set down the iron. She was breathing too fast. "I'll go tonight. I'll take them and go north and go where?" He kept his voice low. "For the children. It's the 15th of December. There's 4 foot of snow on the pass and 11 miles of nothing between here and the next roof. You'd be doing precisely what he needs you to do, which is to be out on a road by yourself again. He'll kill you. He'll try." "Isaac," she was shaking. "You don't know him. He has money and men and the law in his pocket. And I've got 9 miles of bad road, a rifle I know how to use, and the deed to every acre he'd have to stand on." Isaac crossed to her and stopped an arm's length away. "And I've got something he's never had in his life, which is people who'll stand in a yard for me. You saw it in that church." She looked up at him. "Marry me," Isaac said. Marin stopped breathing. "Not for that," he said. "Or, yes, partly for that, and I'll not lie to you about it. Because a married woman with a signed certificate is a different thing in a courtroom than a woman staying in a man's house. That's the practical piece, and it matters. And the other piece? The other piece is that I've been dead 6 years, and you woke me up. His voice came out rough. And I'd like to stop pretending that's a small thing. Maren put both hands over her face. Then she took them down. Yes, she said. They rode out that same night. Cal came up to sit with the place. Judge Weller lived 4 hours south in Bell Crossing and had owed Isaac a favor since a bad winter 12 years back, and Isaac called it in at 11 o'clock at night with 2 sleeping children in the back of the wagon. Weller looked at the pair of them in his kitchen in his dressing gown. You certain about this? Marriage is not a thing to be done in a hurry. We're certain, Isaac said. Ma'am? Maren stood in the lamplight in her blue dress with hay still in the hem from the wagon. I've been married before to a man I didn't know, she said. I know this one. Weller married them at midnight in his kitchen with his wife as witness. There were no flowers and no music. Effie held Gil's hand throughout and looked extremely serious about it. Do you take this woman? I do. Do you take this man? I do, Maren said. Then that's done, said Weller, and I'm going back to bed. Mrs. Weller made them coffee anyway and would not hear otherwise, and they sat in a stranger's kitchen at 1 in the morning while the children slept in a heap on the settle. You've done a fast thing, Mrs., Weller said. Yes, ma'am. I did a fast thing once, 41 years ago. She poured. Fast isn't the same as careless. People get those confused. They drove home in the dark with the children under every blanket in the wagon. Say it, Isaac said, somewhere around the 3rd hour. Say what? Whatever's been sitting on you since the courthouse. Maren was quiet a while. I'm afraid you did it for the paper, she said. I did do it for the paper. I know, and I'd have done it without the paper, Isaac said. It'd just have taken me another year and I'd have made a mess of the asking. She laughed, and then she stopped laughing, and she put her head on his shoulder for the last hour of that road, and neither of them said anything else. Royce Adler came on the 22nd of December, and he brought the law with him. Deputy Nate Orr rode at the front, young and plainly wishing he were anywhere else. Behind him came Adler, and Quill, and 2 hired men. And behind them, in a covered buggy, came Reverend Bram Tillery. Isaac came out on the porch with the rifle. Maren came out and stood beside him and would not be moved. Royce Adler got down off his horse and straightened his coat. He was handsome. That was the first thing. Smooth-faced, well-made, the sort of man who looked exactly like the story he told about himself. Mr. Teague, I believe you have something of mine. There's nothing here that's yours. My wife. Adler's voice was pleasant and carrying. My children. Deputy, this man is harboring. I'm not his wife. Maren stepped forward to the edge of the porch, and Isaac watched her do it and did not stop her. She held up her left hand. I was married on the 17th of this month to Isaac Teague by Judge Weller in Bell Crossing with his wife as witness. The certificate is inside. Her voice did not shake at all. And I filed for divorce in Ford County, Kansas, on grounds of extreme cruelty. Before I ever left, there's a doctor in Lond who set my ribs twice and wrote it down both times. Adler's face did something for half a second. She's confused, he said. She has spells. I've sought help for her, Deputy Orr. Maren turned to the young man. Do you want to see the certificate? Yes, ma'am. I reckon I do. Isaac went in and brought it out. Or read it twice, slowly, moving his lips. This looks in order, he said. It does not matter what a piece of paper says. Adler's pleasantness was coming off him in sheets now. The woman is mine. Those children are mine. I have. You've got nothing. The voice came from the road. Cal Brody was riding up with Hetty Marsh's wagon behind him. And behind that, another wagon. And another. And riders. They came up that lane and spread out across the yard, 20 of them, then 30, until Royce Adler and his 2 hired men were standing in the middle of a half-circle of people from Two Pines who had come out on the shortest day of the year to stand in the cold. "What is this?" Adler said. "This is neighbors," said Hetty Marsh. Adler looked around. He looked at his hired men, who were suddenly very interested in their saddle horns. He looked at Quill, who had moved his horse back a length without appearing to. And Isaac watched a man who had never once in his life been outnumbered discover what it felt like. "Deputy," Adler said. "These people are obstructing. They're standing in a yard, sir." Nator's voice cracked in the middle of it, and he pushed on anyway. "It's not against the law to stand in a yard. I will have your badge. Yes, sir, maybe you will." Or swallowed. "But right now what I've got is a marriage certificate that looks good to me, and a divorce filing in another state, and a woman telling me plain she don't want to go with you. And that's all I've got to go on. She is lying. Then I got 30 people who'd have to be lying too," Orr said, "and I've knowed most of 'em since I was 5. "You," Adler said to Marin, "you did this." "You dragged my name through. I walked 300 miles, Marin said. "That's all I did." "You are my wife. I am not. You are my—" And Royce Adler came up the porch steps with his hand raised. It happened fast, and it happened in front of 30 people. He got 1 step. Isaac moved, and Cal moved, and Nate Orr moved, and it was Orr who got there first, which everybody in that yard would afterward agree was the right way for it to have gone. He put Adler face down on the frozen boards and got the irons on him. "Get off me," Adler said into the porch. "Do you know who I am?" "My brother is—" "Your brother's in Kansas," Nate Orr said. He was breathing hard, and he sounded about 19, and he did not let go. "And I got about 30 witnesses, saw you go at a woman in her own doorway." He hauled him up, and that was the thing Isaac remembered longest. Afterward, not the fear and not the fight, because there hadn't really been one. It was Royce Adler, standing in that yard, with his fine coat filthy and his wrists in irons in front of 30 people who had known him for 11 minutes. And there was nothing left of the man at all. Nothing underneath, just a bully in a good coat who had never once been told no by a room. He did not look impressive. He looked small and loud, and every single person there could see it. And then he did the last thing. The thing that finished him in that valley forever. He looked at Effie. She was standing in the doorway holding her brother's hand, 5 years old, watching all of it with her mother's straight back. "You," he said to her. "You remember I came for you. When she's got nothing and he's thrown you out, you remember I'm the one that came." Effie looked at him. "No," she said. That was all. One word, in a clear little voice, in front of 30 people. Hetty Marsh said afterward that she had heard grown men preach for an hour and never say as much. They put him in the buggy. Quill turned his horse without a word to anybody and rode off south, and no one ever saw him again in that valley. The yard emptied slowly the way yards do, with a lot of standing around and handshaking and nobody quite wanting to be the first to leave. Only Bram Tillery stayed. He sat in his buggy a long while. Then he climbed down and came across the yard, and he was an old man doing it. "Mrs. Teague," Marin went very still at the name. "I came here today," Tillery said, "to see a sinner brought to account. That was my intention. I want you to know that, because I'll not stand here and pretend I came for a better reason." "All right," Marin said. "What I saw instead was a man raise his hand to you in front of 30 people who would not permit it." His voice cracked straight down the middle. "There was nobody in that road for my Lydia. Not one. And I was the reason. I made sure of it from that pulpit for 2 winters before she ever left." He took off his hat. "I have preached a lie for 15 years because the truth was that my daughter died of my mouth," he said. I'm too old to make that right. But I'll not preach it again. He looked at Effie, standing in the doorway, holding her brother's hand. Your children are very fine, he said. Thank you, said Marin. He put his hat back on and got in the buggy and drove away, and the following Sunday he preached on the road to Jericho and did not get through it, and 2 Pines let him not get through it. Spring came the way it comes in that country, late and all at once. The yard emptied out slow that first evening. Cal was the last to go. Well, he said. Well, that was a day. It was. Cal leaned on the rail. You know what I keep coming back to? The kid. The little one saying no like that. I know. 5 years old. I know. Cal was quiet a moment. She learned that somewhere in the last 5 weeks, Isaac, she didn't have that in November. Isaac did not answer that. He could not have. Anyhow, Cal pushed off the rail. Hetty's telling it all over the county already. By Sunday that girl will have knocked him down herself. Let her tell it. Oh, she will. Hetty Marsh started coming up the road every week or so after that, with bread or preserves or nothing at all, and would stay 2 hours. You're too thin, she told Marin. I'm eating. Eating isn't the same as being fed. Those are different. Hetty settled herself. How long were you on that road? 22 days. And how many doors did you knock on? Marin looked at her hands. 4. And how many opened? None, until his. Hetty nodded slowly, like a woman confirming a figure she had already worked out. I want you to know something, she said. I was in that church. And when he stood up and said the thing about the 9 miles, there wasn't a woman in there who didn't know exactly which lamp she'd been sitting behind. She smoothed her skirt. That's why we all came out to your yard in December. Not for you, and not for him either. For the thing we didn't do in November. That's honest. I'm too old for the other kind. Royce Adler was tried in April in Helena. The assault in the doorway was the small charge. What broke him was that once one person in Ford County had said a true thing out loud, 11 more found they could too, including a woman he had employed for 6 years, and a doctor who had written it all down. His brother did not come. He got 4 years, and the county he had owned half of took a very close look at how he had come to own it. None of that mattered as much as people expected it to. What mattered was the ordinary things. Effie starting her letters at the kitchen table. Gil learning to carry an egg in each hand and only losing about half of them. Marin singing out loud now instead of under her breath. And Isaac catching himself standing still in the yard to listen to it. You're doing it again, she said one morning. Doing what? Standing in the middle of the yard with a bucket. I was thinking. You were listening. That too, Isaac said. And on a warm morning in May, Effie announced that she was 5 3/4 and that this was a size worth recording. Isaac was at the counter with his back to the room. He stood there so long that Marin came and stood beside him and put her hand between his shoulder blades. You don't have to, she said quietly. I know. Isaac, you truly don't. Not ever, if you don't want to. That's the trouble, he said. I do want to. That's what's been sitting on my chest since November. He took out his knife. He went to the doorframe and knelt down, and there they were, 7 marks going up the wood with the dates scratched beside them in his own younger hand, and then 6 years of nothing at all. He put his thumb on the highest one for a moment. Then he said, Effie, come here and stand up straight. She came at a run and put her back against the frame and stood as tall as a person can physically stand. Chin down. You're cheating. I'm not. You're standing on your toes. That's different from cheating, said Effie, and came down off them. Isaac laid the flat of the knife on the top of her head and cut the mark and scratched the date beside it. and it landed a good hand's width above the highest of the old ones. Then he called Gil over and did his, lower down, with the boy standing very solemn and gripping his own shirt in both fists. Maren was crying and not bothering to hide it. "They're above his," she said. "Isaac, they're above." "I know." "Do you want me to know?" He stood up and folded the knife. "That's the whole point of it. You don't take the old ones off, nothing gets scraped away in this house, things just get added on top." Effie was inspecting the doorframe with enormous satisfaction. "There's a lot of room left," she observed. "There is," Isaac agreed. "We'll need it," said Effie. "I intend to be tall." "Do you?" "Very tall, taller than Mama." "That's not hard," said Maren. "Taller than you," Effie said to Isaac. "That is hard, I know." Effie put her hand flat above her own mark, up where the wood was still clean. "But I've got years." She did, as it turned out. She came within 2 inches of him, and she reminded him of it regularly for the rest of his life. The boy was born the following March, and they named him Owen, because Isaac said flatly that he was not going to put his first son's name on a second boy and make the child carry it. Micah stayed Micah. That mark on the doorframe stayed his. The new one got his own. By the time Owen was walking there were 14 marks on that frame, and the dates ran across 2 hands of years. And visitors who did not know the history sometimes asked about the gap in the middle, the 6 inches of blank wood between one boy's 5th birthday and a girl's 6th. Isaac always told them. That was the other thing that changed. He had spent 6 years unable to say his son's name out loud, and now he would stand in his own doorway and tell a stranger about a small, serious boy with his mother's laugh, who had been 3 feet 9 inches tall in the spring of the year he died. And then he would move his hand up the frame and tell them about the ones after. "That's a hard thing to keep looking at," a man said to him once. "It'd be harder not to," Isaac said. "How so?" "Because he was here." Isaac put his hand on the wood. 6 years I kept him off this doorframe to protect myself, and all I did was take him out of the house. He shook his head. "He's back on the wall now. He's in the middle of it, where he ought to be, with his sisters and his brothers going up over the top of him." On the last Thanksgiving morning of that decade, Isaac Teague woke before light out of long habit and went down and found his wife already at the stove, and both the older children fighting quietly over whose turn it was to do the eggs. He went out and did the stock in the dark and came back in with the pail, and stopped in the doorway the way he always did, half a beat, before he came into a room. The house was loud. That was the thing he never got used to. 9 years and he had never once got used to how loud it was. He looked at the frame beside his shoulder. All those small cuts in the wood going up and up, 7 of them in one hand from a long time ago, and the rest in the same hand gone older. He had found a woman half dead in his barn on a Thanksgiving morning, and he had said 4 words that turned out to be the truest ones of his life. "You're safe here." That's all. He had thought at the time that he was giving her something. It took him a few years to understand that it had gone the other way, and a few more to be able to say it out loud, and by then Effie was tall. Exactly as she had intended, and there was still 4 feet of clear wood above her mark, and Isaac Teague had every intention of using it.